Hello everyone, my name is Ashish and welcome to the X-Admin channel. So today we are going to discuss interview questions asked in the Accenture for a Java full stack developer. So like recently one of my friend has appeared for the interview on Accenture and his profile was as a Java full stack developer and his technical stacks are Core Java, Spring Boot, REST API, and the microservice. And also he has the front-end knowledge like Angular and the HTML and the jQuery, JavaScript, CSS, and all. Right? So recently he appeared for the Accenture and he has like provided me all the interview questions which are asked to him in a Java full stack developer. So let's go ahead and discuss that questions one by one. So the first questions he encountered was tell me about yourself or explain about your project and what are the technologies you are using. So basically this can be the first question for every interview to you. And here I will suggest you to just give a brief introduction of yourself and explain more about your project, that what is the about of your project and what is your responsibility in this project and what are the technologies you are using in this project, right? So this may be the first questions to the everyone in every interview. So the next question he has been asked that how much you will rate yourself in Java out of 10. So this is basically a quite interesting and important questions that here the interviewer try to get the information from yourself that how you are rating yourself in Java. Okay, so out of 10 you so totally it's depend on the candidate to candidate, right? For someone maybe like they have the knowledge so they can rate themselves as 5, and someone has more like knowledge in the core Java and the concepts are more clear, then they can rate themselves as 7, and someone can rate 9 as well. So it's totally depend on candidate to candidate, but here I will suggest you to just give a average rating, maybe 7 or 8 if you have quite good knowledge in Java, because with that only they are going to ask the questions and the label of the interview questions, and also they may decide that do you have the knowledge of yourself in the core Java or not, right? So the next question was which Java version you are using in your project. So basically, totally depend on the candidate that which Java version they are using, maybe 8, 11, 14. So for him, it was Java 8. So he told that so like he is using Java 8. So now the next question came that what are the features of Java 8, right? So there are some new features added in Java 8, and they are like there is an update on interface, and also like update on interface means a default and a static method was introduced. So basically like before Java 8, uh, interface contained only two part. First first the variable with the like a private final variable, and the second is the abstract method. Now with the Java 8 you can add default and the static methods also. So earlier, like before Java 8, let's say that you have one interface with I1 and you have like 100 classes. So in all 100 classes, your interface has been implemented, right? Now, if I'm using Java 7, and if you want to introduce a new method inside the interface, then to every Java classes, you have to override that method, right? But this new feature on the Java 8 version on an interface, that now you can add a default and a static method. So now let's say that you're using Java 8, and if you want to add a new implementation inside the interface, then you can do it directly by the default method. So you have to write default, you have to use default keyword and the method name, and you can provide directly the body of your method inside that interface itself. And again, if you want to override that method logic, then you can override to the any of the class which is implementing. So here it is not necessary that to the every 100 classes you have to override it. So it's totally depend on the requirement that whether afterwards you want to override that method into the any of the classes. And there is also a static method. So static method is basically a common method for all the classes. So this is static method you have to write in an interface. Okay, it contains the body also, and 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 to this method, to this static method, you cannot override. But to the default you can override. Let's say that you have a situation where you want to override this method to the any of the other classes, then you can go with the default. Otherwise, if you want to keep common that logic for all the classes, then you can go with the static method. So the second feature introduced was lambda expression. So I will explain all the topic also. So there may be chance that you may get this questions in your interview also. Okay. So the next feature was lambda expression. So basically, yeah. So this question was also asked to him that what is the use of lambda expression and what is lambda expression. So basically, a lambda expression is a feature of Java which was included with the Java 8. It provides a way to represent one method interface using an expression. So now with the lambda expression, we can represent one method with an expression. It is very useful in collection libraries. It helps to iterate, to filter, to extract data from the collection. So it is an expression through which we can represent an anonymous function. So what is anonymous function? Basically, an anonymous function are the functions which does not have any name, right? So we can replace that anonymous function with an lambda expression. So the syntax of the lambda expression will be like it will be like a bracket and then arrow key, and then you have to use a square bracket, right? So inside this we can pass the parameter, and this is the arrow, and inside this we can write the body. So the advantage of using the lambda expression is that it reduces the code length. So earlier, if you will implement with the anonymous function, then you have to write a lengthy code. But with the lambda expression, you can remove that or reduce that code length. And the second like advantage is like it reduce the boiler point code. No need to write the repeated syntax again and again, right? So this is the use of the lambda expression, and you can use this lambda expression to the abstract method of a functional interface. Okay, so which will come like later in this part, that what is functional interface. So let's move to the third feature, that for each method. So for each method was introduced inside the iterable interface. So basically, it is used to iterate the elements in a collection. So you can iterate the element of the array list, okay, of the set, and also you can iterate the elements of a stream. Okay, so for each method was introduced with the Java 8. And also the next feature was introduced as an optional class. So basically, optional class are the classes which will handle the null pointer exception. The next was the functional interface. So functional interface, so like what is functional interface? Functional interface are the interface which contain only one abstract method inside it. And it can contain like any number of static and default method. But basically, a functional interface can contain only one abstract method. Let's say if I define two abstract method inside an interface, then it will not be called as a functional interface. A interface, to be a functional interface, it should contain only one abstract method, right? So next feature was Java Stream API. So this is very important topic, and always you may get the question on the Stream API. Okay, so Stream API are the API. So yeah, so basically the stream is like the stream of data you are receiving. Okay, so for example, in the YouTube you have seen that you receive the data in a bunch. Okay, so that is the stream of data. So with the stream of data, you can like you can work on a collection. Okay, so with the stream, it does not change the collection, but you can work on the collection. It means that, let's say that you have a collection of data as an array list or hash map or hash set, and you want to iterate, then you can use the stream API. Now you want to do the manipulation, You want to do the filter, some filtering, then you can use the stream API. So these are the some use of stream API over the collection, right? And the stream API returns the stream object or the stream function. So the next feature introduced in Java 8 as a Java date time API. So earlier we don't have, means like before Java 8, there is no support of the time zone. Okay, so you have to manually put the condition and you have to use the time zone. But now there is like methods introduced for the time zone, and also now the date times are like thread safety. So these are the features of the time zone. Okay, so there is an update in the date time API. And also the new feature came base 64 encode decode. So with the base 64, you can encode or you can decode any like URL or any password. Okay. So these are the few of the features I have like written for you. So the next question which he encounter is that what is the use of lambda expression, which I have explained you. And what do you understand by functional interface? So okay, so this is also explained. So actually to make any interface as a functional interface, you can mark with the annotation at the rate functional interface. So the compiler will come to know that okay, so this is the functional interface. So he will check that there should be only one single abstract method should be there. If there is more abstract method, then the compiler will give the compile time error, right? So the next question is that what is the difference between the monolithic application and the microservice? So basically, this is the important questions. So monolithic means that if all the functionalities and all the modules are existing in a single code base, then that application is called as a monolithic application. For example, let's take the example of a Flipkart. So inside the Flipkart, we have different modules, like to buy a product, to add to the cart, okay, and also there is functionality to search any product, okay. So there are like different components. If all those components are in a single code base, then that type of application is called as a monolithic. And here we deploy this whole application or the monolithic project into a single container of a server. But here in microservice, this is not with it. It is an architectural development style in which the application is made up in a smaller services that handle a small portion. So we create a different module for a different functionalities. Let's say that for add to cart, we will create one separate module or microservice. For searching, we will create another microservice or another component. For buy, we will create another. Okay. So for every task or for a so basically a single responsibility will be given to a particular module or to a particular microservice. So we will break all those functionalities or the component into a single portion. Okay, and for that we will create a different microservice, and those microservices will interact with each other, right? So this give us a lightweight, and it uses the http protocol. So basically microservice uses the http protocol. So if you're using a rest api, basically, so we can deploy all those modules into a different container of the same server or also to the different server, right? So this is the main advantage, that you can deploy all those modules which are in microservice to the different container of the same server, and also you can deploy to the different server. It means that the microservice will do the handshake and they will interact with each other. All right. So this is the main funda of the microservice. So this is the difference between the monolithic application and the microservice, right? Yeah, and also one point I want to add, that the advantages of using the microservice is that, let's say that you have five module. So you have like deployed all those five modules in the different container of the same server or the different server. Let's say that you want to do some changes into a particular module, then in monolithic you have to do the changes, and also you have to see if that module is dependent on the other module or not. So basically, microservice provide a loose coupling for your application. So if you're using microservice, then particular that microservice or module you have to update, and you can simply deploy that microservice into the server. So you have to don't touch any other microservices. But this is not in the case with monolithic. If you have to, there is change in certain module, then you have to change that module, and that whole code base will again get deployed into the server, right? Yeah. So this is the main difference between monolithic application and the microservice. Now, which HTTP method you have used in your project? So this was the question asked to him, that which HTTP methods you have used in your project of a Spring Boot. So basically, we are using mostly get, post, put, delete. So get is used to get or to fetch the information from the server. Post is used to send the data to the server or to save any resource to the database or to create any resource in the database. So post is used to create a resource. Put method is used to update a resource. Okay. And also it replaces all the current representation of the target resource with an uploaded content. So delete resource is to delete the resource from the database. And also here you may get some questions like what is the difference between the get and the post. So basically, you can say that in get the date, the information goes in the URL, but with the post, the information goes with a request body. Okay, so get is not that much safe because here the URL and the data are exposed to the URL, but post is quite safer because the data is going through the request body, not with the URL, and the URL is exposed to the server like public. Okay, so yeah, so also you may get the difference, means question like put. So they may ask that, do the put create a resource? So you have to say yes. Put may create a resource. If there is not any information found in the server, then it will use to create that resource. If that already resource is present, then it will not create it. It will only update this. Okay. So these are some extra questions you have to see. Okay. So next is that, let's say that you have an employee resource with the employee ID, employee name, employee address. So how you will do the CRUD operation? So here you have, so here he get the question to explain the whole CRUD operations with the microservice inside the microservice, and he has the employee resource with the employee ID, employee name, employee address. Okay, so he is asked to do the save operation to fetch all the employee and to fetch particular employee with the ID, and also to delete the employee from the database. So okay, so this can be question be very important, and like if you are able to explain this question, then there will be a higher chance to be get selected, because these questions is a very huge concept, so it will define your knowledge about the microservice and how you do the CRUD operations, because it contained the every aspect of your microservice almost. Okay, so I will explain this through my Eclipse. So here I have one project already with me where I have done the CRUD operations. So how you have to explain this? So first of all, we will say that that I will create a Spring Boot with the Spring Initializer. Okay, then inside that, inside the Java package, basically inside the source, I will create the different packages. The packages like controller, model, and the repository and the service. All right. So now let's start with the model. So let's take that we have an article. Okay. So we have an article, and the article has ID, name, quantity, and the price. So you have to create one Java class with the Pojo class, and you have to mark this with the entity at the rate entity annotation. So here I will use a JPA repository. Okay, so at the rate entity will map your all these like variables into a column inside the database. And you can say that I will use for ID, I will use at the rate ID, which is a primary key, which make is unique. And also I will use at the rate generate value for keeping on increasing your ID value automatically. You don't have to define like manually the ID. So it will keep on like increasing. Okay, so this is the pojo class you have to create, or model class for the article. So it will contain the id, name, quantity, price. So next you can say that we have to create the controller class, and the controller class will contain the endpoint. So controller class will be inside our control package. So this is our controller, and you have to mark with the at the rate controller or at the rate rest controller. So and also you have to mark with at the rate request mapping, and you have to provide the URL. So this is the class label request mapping and the URL. And the next you have to create the endpoint. It means that you have to create the method. So to get the article, you have to create this method. And here you can see that I'm using at the rate get mapping. Okay, and this is the request like mapper with the URL. And here I have used at the rate controller, so that's why I'm using at the rate response body. Otherwise you can directly use at the rate rest controller, and you don't need to use a response body annotation also. Okay, so this is our endpoint. And also you have to say that we have to create one service class. So inside our service package, so service class will be marked with at the rate service annotation. And also this method will be called to the repository. So we have to create one repository also. So inside this repository we have to mark, so we have to extend a JPA repository. Okay, so you can use the CRUD operations, the CRUD repository also, but here I have used a JPA repository, right? So JPA repository provide all the CRUD operations, like save, uh, find all method, find by id method, delete method, and all. Okay, so inside your endpoint, in the service, in the controller class, you have to write the logic to call the service method. So find all article, and also you have to do the auto wire for the service class inside your controller. And with this reference you have to call find all method inside the service class. And this is and also I have auto wire the repository. Okay, so with this reference we can call find all method. So find all method will find all the article present in the database, right? And similarly you can do the save operation also. So for that you have to create one more endpoint in this controller, and you have to call again the service class. So inside service class you have to create one more method, and then you have to use repository dot save, and then you have to pass the object, okay, or the model class object for the resource which you want to save to the database, or create a resource to the database. So basically this way you have to implement all the classes and the flow also. So guys, this is the very important question also, how to means how you will do the CRUD operations. If we will able to explain this whole means flow, then I believe the interview will be like very like impressed to you. So the next question he was asked, that what is HashMap and what is the internal working of HashMap. So this is the important question from the collection. So HashMap is basically used to store the key and the value pair, right? And regarding the internal HashMap, so HashMap uses the hashing functionality. So let's say that I want to add a new element. So for that you have to use the put method, right? So first of all I will create a HashMap object, and then with that object dot put I will put the key and the value. Okay, so how this works internally, it first of all it takes the key, and then it calls means it's do the hashing. So it's called the hash code method, and it's create a hash code for that key. So hash code can be a big number. So now it need to find a index where he want to store that particular element. So for that there is one like formula using internally, that hash code into n minus m. Okay, so so n is like particularly the whole like bucket size. Let's say that it is 16. So 16 minus, okay, so in this way it will find the like index. Now let's say that I got the index as 4. So 4 is my index, so it is going to store that particular element inside the fourth index. Let's say that again I do the put method. Again I store that put method, means hashmap dot put and another element. So it will again do the hashing. It will generate the hash code, and with that hash code it will again generate the index value where he want to store that particular element. Let's say now it's came 5, so it will store that particular element inside the fifth bucket or the fifth index of the hash map. Now again we do the put method. So again it will take the key and it will do the hashing. It will generate a hash code. So hash code will be a big number. So again it will call a method to generate the index or to find the index where it want to store. Now let's say that again we got the fourth index. So already the element was there in the fourth index. So so it will check that whether with the equal method. Okay, so it will check whether that already key is present in that particular hash map or not. If the key is not present, then it will simply add again that third element inside the fourth index. So in this way, if you are using, so it will make a list. Okay, so it will make a list. Now let's say that I want to fetch that element with the with with the get method. So inside the get method I need to pass the key. So what it will do, it will again do the hashing. It will generate the hash code, and then with the index method it will find out the index. Now we got the fourth index. So here the hashmap will use equal method to match that whether that particular key is present inside that fourth index or not. Because now the two element are already there in the fourth index. So it will use the equal method and it will try to compare it. And then if that element is found with that key, then it will take that key and it will yeah, and then it will like return it. So this is how the hash map works internally. So basically for storing it uses hash code and the hashing technique. For fetching it use again hash code and the equal method to match that particular key, okay, inside the index. So this is just a brief answer that how the internal working of the means how the hash map works internally. Yeah, so this was the important question, so you have to look into this. So next question he get that what is concurrent hash map. So basically concurrent hash map are the update of on the hash map. So concurrent hash maps are like thread safe, and here the locks are on the segments or on the every bucket. Let's say that there is 16, the 16 is the size of the bucket, or the 16 segment are there in the hash map. Then the lock will be done to the separate to the whole 16 segment. Means there will be not a single lock for that object in the concurrent hash map. So lock will be basically to the particular segment. So for the it means that we can do the write operation. Means like 16 means the 16 thread can do the write operation in a particular hash map object, because there is not a lock in a particular object of a hash map, but a lock is there into the every segments. So if 16 bucket is there, then 16 lock will be there. It means 16 operation we can do with the particular lock. But the read operations you can do like any number of time. Okay. But write operation we can do with the 16 at a time. A 16 thread can operate on a hash map, on concurrent hash map, right? So this is a concurrent hash map, and concurrent hash maps are also like fail safe. So what is fail safe basically? So this may be the another questions which you may get, that what is fail safe. And so fail safe means, let's say that if there is a collection, okay, if there is hash map and or like array list, and in the array list there are 5 element, and a single thread is iterating that array list with the iterator. And let's say that if there is one thread, it came and it tried to update that particular array list, then there may be chance that we will get an exception with the say the modification exception, the concurrent modification exception. It means that the compiler looks that there is some modification, so it will not iterate further. It will give the exception. So this is not a fail safe. Okay, here we will get an exception. But if we will use a concurrent hash map, then it will not throw any exception. And in the same way for the array list, how to get rid of this, by using a copyright array list. So copyright array list is one of the collection in which you can use it, and it is a fail safe. It does not throw an exception if any other thread try to update that collection while iterating. Okay, so this is an example of an concurrent hash map and how it works. So the next question he got through the MySQL is that let's say that you have an employee table with employee name, employee ID, employee salary. So write a query to fetch fourth largest employee salary from this table. So general query will be like if multiple employee has the same salary. Okay. So here we have to use a distinct also. So first like select star from employee table where the salary equals to, and then you have to use a subquery like select distinct salary from employee order by salary in a decreasing order, and then limit n minus 1 comma 1. So basically what you have to do, you have to you have to order that salary in a decreasing into the decreasing order, and then you have to use the limit. And here is the general n minus 1. So let's say that you have to find the fourth element, so you can do 4 minus 1, so that is 3 comma 1. Okay, so this is the whole like select star from employee where the salary equals to select distinct salary, because here there may be chance that the employee has the same salary, means like different employee has a same salary. So for that we are using distinct from employee order by salary in a decreasing order, and then limit 3 minus 1. Okay, so this is the one like MySQL interview questions you may get. And also the other questions you may get what is indexing and what is the use of index. Okay, so next question he get like what are joins and the type of joins. So basically joins are used to fetch the values from the two different or like multiple tables. So there are like 4 to 5 type of joins, like inner join, outer join, left join, right join. With the inner join you can fetch the common elements of the two table. With the left join you can find the common elements uh, and also the whole data from the left. Okay, so these are joins which you have to see. And the next question is got that which Angular version you have used. So basically he have used Angular 8 version in his project. So the next question is get that what are the features introduced in the Angular 8, so which you have to look. Okay, and also there may be questions like he got why you choose Angular framework over the other framework. So this is the important questions, that why you choose Angular framework over the other framework. Okay, so basically the Angular like framework are a single page framework. Okay, it also it uses the HTTP protocol. Okay, so it can easily interact. Okay, so next it uses the routing functionality also. It has quite support of like animation in the browser. Okay, it supports the REST API call also, right? So these are the some features. And basically it is a component base, like a module. We create a different component, and to the every component we assign different responsibilities, right? So these are and yeah, so these are the some points which you can say to the interviewer, that why you choose Angular framework over the like other frameworks. Okay, so basically totally it is depend on the requirement also of your project. So like you have to decide according to your like requirement, that like which will be the best framework for you, right? So next question he get that what are the ways to transfer the data in Angular through the component. So basically there are three ways which we can transfer the data. So you have to check that whether you have to transfer the data from the child component to the parent component. If you have to do from transfer the data from the child component to the parent component, then you have to use output. Okay. If you have to transfer the data from a parent component to a child component, then you have to use input. Okay. And also if there is no any like link up between the two component and you want to share, then you can use the service class also to transfer the data from one component to another component. So basically you have to see the relationship between the two component, whether it is a parent to child or child to parent or two different components. So yeah, so these are the some questions he has like provided me for the interview of Accenture as a Java full stack developer. Okay, yeah. And at last he was asked that do you want to ask something with me? So this was the last question. So always you should try to ask some your queries or doubt, like yeah. So like I will suggest you to ask that which project means I will be assigned, if they have any knowledge. Or you can ask that is this just a general interview, or it is for a project specific interview, right? So these are the some questions which you can ask with the interview also. Yeah. So these are the some questions which I have discussed in the interview of Accenture. Okay. Yeah. So next I will try to bring the more interview questions for the different organizations. So stay tuned and thank you. Have a nice day.